Welcome back to the COS Business Podcast. My name is Andrew Hasley, and I'm the host of the show. Today, I'm sitting here with Paul Bierman, who is the founder of Powertool Safe. Can you tell us a little bit about what your business is and your story behind it?
Absolutely, and thank you for having me, Andrew. It's great to be here. Powertool Safe we're a web-based app. So we are we're software as a service. We're an online database for contractors to register their equipment. So theft is really big within the construction industry, and I've spent 30 years as a builder, as an independent builder, and then a contractor, subcontractor, and a general contractor. And through my own experience with theft, I recognize that builders don't take care of the equipment that they rely on to make a living. They don't have good records, so that they're not good with organization management, and that's why theft is so prevalent in the construction industry. So what we've done is created a way to help them build the records they need to prevent theft and then to combat theft when they do experience it.
And now a word from our sponsors. Recon Marketing is the fastest growing social media agency in Colorado. Recon focuses on becoming an extension of your business while providing social media management, review management, and digital marketing. Recon Marketing, putting you on the radar. Nice. Yes. And we're going to dive into more of that. I'm going to look over here, make sure everything's firing correctly, and make sure my posture is good. Only because of the framing, I got to make sure it's framed correctly. So.
In the frame, out of the frame. In the frame,
exactly.
Out of the
it's
frame.
Very easy. All right. So yeah. So what really? So you got into power. You got into the construction industry, and that's what got you into Powertool Safe. You said you had 30 years of experience in construction. What got you into construction?
From the time I was little, construction always made sense. My parents were teachers, so we didn't have a lot of money. We had 4 kids in a 900 square foot house. And when I was in 4th grade, my parents decided to add on to the house, make it a little bit bigger, but they couldn't hire a general contractor to come in with their crews. Instead, they hired a contractor to consult and kind of lead them and give them the guidance, but we did a lot of the work ourselves. So from the time I was little, I got a lot of exposure to construction, helping with, pulling wires, moving material, and it just, that whole process just clicked with me. It just made sense to me. And from that time on, I always found myself either building forts or working for neighbors on remodels, and just kind of drawn to that construction industry or to a construction project. And just that hands-on of taking nothing or having a thought and then building a fort or creating something that you could step back at the end of the day and be like, wow, look what I just did. That's cool.
Yeah.
So it's almost like it's instant positive feedback at the end of a day when you can look back and say, oh, those walls weren't there this morning. And odds are those will be there long after I'm gone. Mm-hmm. It's a good feeling.
Yeah, it's like that's cool. You brought up the fort thing too. I have a couple fort stories.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
Don't we all? Don't we all?
I hope
and
so.
Some of those we probably don't want to share either. Yeah, right?
No, for sure. That's actually true. Although I do wear my heart on my sleeve, and I'm very transparent in everything I do. So I'm not afraid to share things, but yeah, I do know what I do. There's some stories that are probably less need to be shared, but
that's just growing up and the lessons of life.
Like I remember in 4th grade, like we lived in Arkansas for a year, and we built a treehouse.
Yeah.
We built first we built this fort that was on the ground, and then somebody came by and destroyed it. So we're like, let's put it in the sky, build a ladder that we take with us.
Ooh, that's a good idea.
Yeah,
that's a good idea.
And so we did that, and it was cool. We had we built some things in it. I was like in 3rd grade, so it's a very rough memory. That was actually the same year 9/11 happened too. So
wow.
So that kind of dates me where I'm how old I am. So
sure.
But it's cool how those major life events can happen, and you can centralize memories around it. But yeah, that's one of my forts. What was one of your favorite forts that you built?
My best friend and I grew up kind of on the edge of town, and we had a lot of open fields. And so we would go out and we would build, we'd find old ponds or whatever. And for the most part, the open fields they were cow pastures. And so we would just go out and have the place to ourselves. So we would find either, old places where they had mined or There were, old pits that we would turn into forts or BMX tracks. We'd build jumps. We'd go out there and we'd steal fireworks and light off fireworks or, build fires, play with matches, the things you're not supposed to do when you're little. And okay, today we can play with matches. Things like that. And thankfully, we didn't burn anything down. But,
yes.
Those are the memories that, that were always fun. But we had, even when my kids are little, we lived on a house on an irrigation ditch that had a bunch of mature cottonwood trees. And one of the trees had an old fort in it, but my son wanted to rebuild it. So we ended up building a 3-story fort. I think he was probably 9 or 10 at the time. And we ended up building a 3-story fort.
Around the tree?
That was almost 50 feet in the air.
Wow.
And I mean, why not? What better way for kids to be outside, to be creative, and to create their own space in nature?
I love it. Yeah. And I can feel those feelings that I had when I was a kid, as you're saying that, of building forts. I even wanted to build, the show Dexter's Laboratory was popular when I was a kid, and I wanted to build my own underground laboratory. Nice. And I was like, I had a big vision, and like there was a tree stump, and it was like, we didn't make any progress. Me and my brother, we wanted to build an airplane too. So we had like a burn pile because we lived in the country for a little bit, when we were younger. Yep. We had like a big old burn pile, and so we would gather all the metal and just try to hammer it together. We had like just a pile of metal. But that was our vision, though, was we're going to build an airplane.
Yeah. And I think that's the beautiful thing is like it does force you to be creative, and it does allow you to get feedback from your creativity, and in a sense it inspires you. Like you have an idea and then you try to create something. Usually at that age or at any age, even when you have an idea, you could try to create something and you're like, oh gosh, this doesn't quite live up to what my idea was. Room for improvement. Let's try it again.
Exactly. Yeah.
And we just keep going. And I think that's the fun part is there's always a mental challenge when you just unleash your imagination.
Yeah. Okay. So let's bring that challenge back to Powertool Safe.
So yeah, and really.
So what was some of those challenges that you would face when you first built Powertool Safe? What was the thing? Is like, oh crap.
So Powertool Safe was there was technically a trigger event. Like for the most part, I was in construction and I loved construction. I was a general contractor and I was building a brewery in Montana, and I came to work one day and the back of the trailer was wide open and a lot of my tools were gone. And so through that process, and this is one that so many builders go through because you just think, oh, I'm in a good place. I've got good locks. I got lights on. I'm okay.
They're targeted probably.
And really we have this false narrative. We tell ourselves like, this won't happen to me.
Yep.
And it's so easy to convince ourselves that this won't happen to me. So I showed up to work. My trailer was broken into. My tools were gone. I filed a police report, called my insurance company, and my insurance company said, oh, your theft policy lapsed. You chose not to renew it. I thought, well, that was dumb of me. The police officer showed up and he said, give me the information you have. Tell me the tools that are gone. Give me the serial numbers you have. And I thought, oh man, I don't have any of that. And so I thought about, I looked at the trailer. When you use the same tools every day, you take them out of the same spot and you put them back. So just through memory, I knew what I lost. And so then I made a list and I went home and I started Googling the tools that I lost so I could find images of what I lost. And through that process, I was able to find images on the internet of the exact tools, the models that I had, and I printed those off and then I created a description of each tool that was gone. And so from that, I was able to create really a comprehensive list of what was gone. And I gave that, used that as part of my police report. And then I went pawn shop to pawn shop in town looking for my stuff. And about the third time, the third pawn shop I went into, which was barely a mile from my job, I went in and I said, hey, I lost a bunch of tools. Here's a list of what I'm missing. And he started flipping through the pages and he got to the third page and he's like, oh, I got that one, that one, that one, that one, and that one. And it was that quick. It was like a light bulb just went off in my head. It's like, man, I'm an idiot. I didn't have my serial numbers. I didn't have anything. I lost extra time from work. It took all this work on my end. And now I got, maybe 30% of my stuff back, but other stuff is still missing. And I have no way to report good information to police to help them out. And for me, it just kind of hit me. It's like, man, everybody, when I got my stuff hit, there were a couple other jobs in town that got hit too. And they had the same story. And thankfully, it was a small enough community that, you know, you start telling people what happened and they say, hey, so-and-so had their trailer broken into as well. And so you start talking to each other and same thing. Nobody has the information they need to do anything about it. So that just kind of sat in the back of my mind. And I think really for me, what inspired me was the realization that like, damn, I'm an idiot. I let myself become this vulnerable because I chose to do nothing. And I chose to convince myself that it wouldn't happen to me. And I was like, there's a better way.
Yeah.
And so, you know, it just became a side project that I would think about and I'd kick around. And then I hired an intern and we started creating an expression of what it would look like. What's an easy way to create records? Because I was like, the entire industry needs a way to do this. And so I started with an intern and I didn't get too far. You know, I know construction. I don't know anything about programming. I don't know anything about parsing out a good programmer. You know, I had to learn through construction how to find a good plumber that cares about what they do, how to find a good electrician, and how to build a network of subcontractors that share my level of quality and professionalism. And so I could create that network, but now I'm in programming and I know nothing about programming. So I hired an intern. That didn't get me very far, but it got me to the point where I started talking and somebody introduced me to two programmers that worked for a local software company. Oracle has a big presence in Bozeman. So there's a lot of programmers that kind of moonlight on the side. And they helped me start to put together more of an app and design an app. And that worked for a while until they said, oh, we're too busy with work. Now we got to scrap this. We can't help you anymore. And so then I found another guy.
Did you still have the code or you had to start from scratch?
Every time I had the code and I'd go to the next level, everybody else would be like, yeah, I can't use that. We need to start over.
Because like they don't know what was going on, you know, it's like.
Or they say, oh, this isn't scalable, or, oh, this isn't how I do it, so we just need to start over.
Okay, yeah.
So then I finally, you know, I'm still in construction. This is just a part-time because it's like, it's just gnawing at the back of my head. Like, I know there's a better way to do this. And so we got to the point where I found an app developer and I hired him and he created an app for me. And so now I have a working model of an app and I'm able to share that with some other people. And one of the guys on my hockey team is a senior developer at Oracle as well. And, you know, I showed him what I was doing, and one of the guys that I was building a custom home for, I showed him, and he is a consultant as well. And they both kind of looked at me and they're like, you're in construction. How the hell did you actually get design and create an app that's functional? I was like, this is unheard of. People don't do that. And I'm like, well, nobody told me I shouldn't do this.
You're a creator.
You know?
That's what
like,
you are. You're a builder.
I didn't know. Like, I didn't know, like, this isn't supposed to happen, or the likelihood of success to get to this point is so slim. Like,
definitely,
it was probably a dumb idea to do. Like, I didn't realize the risk.
You're saying, looking back, if you would have known the risk and the likelihood of it not working out, you might not have even pursued it.
Yeah, if somebody said, "Oh man, your odds of making something happen are 1 in 1,000 or 1 in 500 or whatever," if somebody would have said, "This is a great idea, but your capacity to bring this to fruition is next to nothing. You're wasting your time and your resources."
Yeah, a lot of people would say that about any business, though, too.
Well, and that's true, too. So I think naivety really helped me out. But at that point, when I was able to share that app and show them what we were able to do, they kind of shook their heads and they're like, wow. You know, and then we started talking about it, and they say, oh, whoa, this is big. This is actually big, because the construction industry, there's $1.5 billion a year of things that get stolen.
And who was saying this is big?
The people that I was talking to, I was explaining this, trying to figure out, where do I go from here? How do I make this work? And, you know, so the same thing. So now I have an app and they look at it and say, well, this is really technically, this is an expression. This shows how it needs to be done, but this isn't scalable. It isn't marketable because this will crash. You can only add so many people. And so basically they said, okay, let's look at this. And as we looked at it and we started to analyze it, we realized that, you know, there's a lot of tool tracking programs out there. And anybody can sign up for free tool tracking apps or whatnot. But what most people don't realize is that theft it's an aspect that creates a pain point for everybody within the construction industry. Like, the construction industry has its own ecosystem. And if you think about it, every tool enters that ecosystem from a retailer. So a builder buys a tool from a retailer. That builder's so busy working that he doesn't even keep track of the tools he's got, which makes it easy for a thief to come in and steal his stuff. Now that thief is going to go and try to sell it either online on Facebook Marketplace or go to a pawn shop or see where he can get cash for it. And that builder's left now calling a police officer to file a police report, doesn't have the information to give the police officer the records he needs to effectively help catch the bad guy. A pawn shop's going to buy that tool. And then if I can find that tool in a pawn shop and prove it was stolen, now that pawn shop's out money too. So even further than that, like I mentioned, when it happened to me, my theft insurance policy lapsed. But if I have good records and I know exactly what my tools are, I can give a copy of all my records to that insurance company, and I can usually get a better rate on theft insurance with it. So theft insurance is not theft insurance, but insurance companies are part of this ecosystem that includes retailers, law enforcement, pawn shops, builders, and thieves, and it puts the builder in the center of this ecosystem. And tools flow in and out, and everybody's affected by theft because it costs them all money and effort.
Isn't it wild that like it's just one group of people is causing all these other people problems?
Yeah, and so there's also duplicate efforts in theft recovery, between law enforcement, between insurance companies, and contractors. They're all looking for their own tools, and they don't really have a way to do it together. So our platform actually creates an entire ecosystem because we've designed it as a database. You sign up with an email address, and you can enter all your tools, and that way, this is a searchable database for both law enforcement and pawn shops. So if your stuff gets stolen, you can instantly create a theft report, use that to file a police report, and then attach information from that police report to your stolen tools, being the police officer's contact information, his email. And so since we have a searchable database for law enforcement or pawn shops, they can search a brand, model, and a serial number, which is a unique identifier for each tool. And if that belongs to a user in our system, we can use instant notifications to communicate to all parties to help fight theft.
Yeah. And as you build the database, as you have more people involved, the more efficient and more effective it gets, kind of like Tesla's autopilot.
Absolutely.
The more Teslas on the road, the better. Because Tesla isn't technically, they sell cars, but they're more of a data collection company. That's what they do.
Absolutely. Well, yes, they are. And I think Google is kind of the same thing. If you use Google Maps or whatever,
100%.
They're all using the same thing. What we're trying to do though is, again, because every tool comes from a retailer into that ecosystem, whether or not that tool is stolen from the retailer store itself. The information, we've created a way to create tool records just from the information on the box. So you don't even have to open it, but we can use photos to automatically create tool records to save you time, to attach receipts to it so you can track warranties. You can, find replacement parts. You can do everything you need. We give you all the tool tracking tools you need to sort tools by job, by employee, whatever. But tool tracking actually starts when your tools are stolen. So creating a network where everybody works together. Our brick wall right now, our biggest hurdle is getting the retailers to recognize the value that this service could have to their customers by actually using the information they have available at the time of purchase and transforming that information into a tool record for their customer. It's a service-based product that actually helps their customer. It saves their customer time, and it gives their customer the information they need to protect their equipment. And by automatically registering those tools for their customers, it creates a database to help law enforcement and pawn shops protect their customers.
You're talking about retailers?
Retailers. And so we have an API for our product.
Nice.
And that's what we're actively going after right now is retailers, so that
You say you're not a coder and you throw the word API around like it's
I'm sorry. I don't. Yeah. I mean, I've had to learn. It's been a vertical learning curve, and I've learned a lot through my mistakes. But
an API allows the retailers to basically plug into your tool.
Correct. Thank
and
you.
Automatically connect with it, right?
Yes. So it's an application process interface, and sorry, that's really about the depth of my knowledge. But yes, it allows a retailer at the time of purchase to send information to our database so that we can create that tool record for their customer and generate an account and transfer that record into their customer's account automatically without them doing anything.
Wow. And that's awesome.
It's
that makes it even more efficient.
well, and that's the whole thing is it saves everybody time and it creates the records that everybody benefits from.
And so your main challenge, sorry, go ahead.
No, I think that's really that's the crux of where we're at is we've developed it. We have all the pieces in play, and now it's the execution. So,
getting the retailers to buy in.
Correct.
You're like Steve Jobs going to the computer store trying to sell them the first Apple.
in a sense, yeah, in a sense.
I know that's a pretty big name to throw out there, but
much smaller version of that for sure.
But that's what that's the business part about it, and that's what this podcast is about is business, and really, I guess you got to go out there and sell your ass off.
And that's a really big part of it. So I just finished. I guess I've been back for almost a month now, but I was on the road for 6 weeks. I drove I guess I was technically on the road for 8 weeks. And we just went over 12,000 miles going to manufacturing companies and partnering with them, helping them understand the service we're bringing so that they would allow us to use their marketing images for their models, because we've had to build our own database so we can automate this process so that we know, we've had to create so many models and products for every brand and identify them by UPCs, so that when we see a UPC or a SKU coming from a retailer, we know exactly the manufacturer, the model, and whatever serial numbers they can capture with that, and we can automatically turn those into records.
Would that help them also with theft? Because we were at Lowe's last week, and they said that $100,000 within the last 3 months, or was it a month? Was stolen right out of their store.
Yeah, exactly. And so that's the whole thing is theft in the construction industry is $1.5 billion. But essentially what our service does is allows a retailer to create a purchase or to create a purchase record or a tool record using the SKU number and attaching a serial number that's on the box. So if we can do that at the point of sale for a retailer, ultimately we could do that for the retailer when they create inventory systems, and we could attach actual serial numbers of product to their SKUs. And because they would then be scanned in their store, those serial numbers physically would show up as property of that store. So if it walks out of store and somebody took it to a pawn shop, all they'd have to do is search the serial number in the database and say, oh, no, actually this belongs to Home Depot.
Yeah.
Oh, this belongs to Lowe's. Sorry, not buying that tool. And at that point, we could then notify with our system. It's like that tool we know belongs to Home Depot. So it's an instant notification. Hey, this tool was just searched at this pawn shop.
Yeah. And I was just thinking too, as you were explaining that, and a big application of that is the community. You're part of it is what you're doing is you're building a community of the ecosystem that works together. And I was just imagining even when even a retailer can basically, send out a notification or something like that, or however it works, when they do get hit or when things do get stolen, and then that can alert the builders and let them know, hey, these tools are stolen. If someone tries to come and sell you these, or I don't know if that ever happens. Do people try to sell builders tools
Oh, I mean, I think quite often, and I saw an article yesterday. I think what happens more often than not is I saw an article and it was in Minnesota, and it was I think they said some job trailer got hit. These guys showed up in the morning and they lost about $14,000 in tools. If you have any information, hey, contact us. And that's the dumbed down way of saying, we got nothing. We got no leads. We have no information. So if you know something, help us because we weren't smart enough to help ourselves. And it's this is a systemic problem. And if we can make this go, imagine how many bikes are stolen. Imagine how many computers are stolen. This is, in my mind, And again, this comes back to like building forts and having that imagination and then trying to build something and say, oh, that's not quite right. Let's try it again. But in my mind, with that same mindset, this is going to be the next evolution of how we process or how things are transacted when you buy something, because information is key and information is power, and we have it. We're just not giving it to the people. And really all that we need to do is create that demand, and we're working some back channel ways to create that demand and say to users, man, we want more. We expect more. If we're going to buy something from you and you have this information, why wouldn't you give that to us? Why wouldn't you help us get that? Because that's going to help drive customer loyalty. Like, you do that for me and I'm coming back every time.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And, I was just thinking too, it's like, let me pause because I lost my train of thought. Yeah, I don't know what I was just thinking. I try to not have any dead silence on this podcast, but then I realized just recently, like, it's okay to stop and think for a few seconds. Like, that's how conversations flow anyways. And I've listened to a few podcasts where they do that. It's like he'll sit there and just 30 seconds of silence.
It is funny because you're like,
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Now let's talk about that.
I did remember what I was just thinking, and just like, Powertool Safe is allowing people to have kind of the power back into their hands a little bit, and a little bit more control of when, disaster strikes, of when they get stolen, a little bit more control for that.
Well, you're right. It empowers them, because if you think about it, when your stuff you show up and something's gone. We've got guests right now, and I was explaining kind of what we do to them last night, and he said, "Man, I wish I had that, because I came out the other day." Well, I guess it was a couple months ago, and he said, "I came out to my car. I pulled in just for a minute. I went upstairs. I came back out, and I saw my door wasn't closed, and I knew right away somebody got into my car, and I had a camera bag there, and I had two cameras and all my stuff." And he goes, "My heart just sunk." He goes, "I wish I had this application. I wish I had something where I had information that I could do something with it." And so I think for me, that was the biggest thing. And in my mind, it was probably even subconscious at the time, but it was realizing, like, when my stuff got stolen, damn, I was pissed. I was so pissed because I felt like I was violated. Like, somebody took shit that belonged to me. It's not, how dare them? And I think what was more insulting to me is that realization, I let it happen. And I did nothing to make sure that I could fight back. And so everything became more, it was reactive. And so through that whole process, I've realized, like, if we can create a system that gives people the tools they need to be proactive, so that, it's almost like a chess game. If somebody's going to take something from you, are you going to play defense or are you going to play offense? If you got a bishop that's looking to take out your queen, are you gonna wait till your queen is gone and then say, "Oh no, how dare you?"
Yeah.
So it's kind of like a chess game. By creating records, by taking a little bit of time to create the records you need, now you can fight back. Now you can automatically search online for stolen tools. Now you can share that information. And now you can make it harder for thieves to get away with it. And ultimately, that's the whole goal. That's the main sentiment that most people have is when you show up and something's gone, the first thing you want to do is you just want to figure out who took your stuff, and you want to make them pay. And like, that's the emotion, that's the driver. And that driver, the realization is, yeah, but I got nothing to go on.
Yeah. And I've caught someone in the middle of breaking into my brother's car.
Yeah, and I've caught somebody breaking into my roommate's car too.
Yeah, and I actually walked out there. I didn't know that they were I actually thought it was my brother in the front seat, and it was like 4 a.m., 5 a.m. It was like really early in the morning, and I went out there to grab something, and I opened the back door, and as soon as I opened the back door, the dude in the front just kind of like turns around, and I'm like, "Oh, that's not my brother."
Yeah.
And he hops out, and I was like, I could have, tried to hold him there. I just told him to get the fuck out, just go, just go. And then I went and told my brother, and he was mad that I told him that, because he ran out there and tried to chase him down. Yeah.
So that happened to me too when I was in college, and it was my roommate's car, and I went out, same thing, in the middle of the night. It was probably only 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock, and I went to get something, or I walked by her car and I saw somebody move or saw movement in the car, and I noticed right away somebody was in it. So I opened the door and I grabbed this jerk and I pulled him out, and I pulled him in and I pinned him on the ground in the house, and I called the cops. And I'm like, I just wanted to beat the shit out of him.
Yeah.
I'm like, how dare you? This is mine. This belongs to me. You have no right.
Yeah, he startled me actually. Like because I thought it was someone else, so it's kind of, I was like a little shocked, and then I paused for a second, and then I was like, just get out, dude, just go.
And I think that happened to me, but it was instant rage.
Okay, gotcha.
Like oh no, you don't. You have no right here.
No, for sure.
And I don't know, maybe
my brother would have did the same thing. So
I think we all respond a little bit differently, but I don't know anybody who's going to walk out and see somebody in their car and be like, oh, have a great day. Close the door when you're done.
Definitely. Yeah.
I think everybody's going to be triggered somewhat by that.
No, for sure. And so that was kind of, I was kind of prefacing it with you are putting the power kind of into letting people have that more of a chance to fight back, more of a chance to get their stuff back. But that was kind of leading up to another thought is we kind of have a culture of theft. In our country, maybe in other countries too, but I can only speak for ours. And where it's looked at as not as bad for a lot of people, where it's like, oh, I'm just stealing this little thing. Oh, and even with not streaming services, but like share in the early 2000s when all those like stealing music, it's like it's just an MP3.
Well,
it's what people
honestly thoughts. I think that's a really good point, and that's something that we definitely deal with, and that opens up a whole nother conversation, and it really comes back to politics. It comes back to the moral fabric of our society, of our country, of where we want to go and how we get there and how we take care of each other. Because when you're in a country where all you hear about is a new mass shooting every day, who gives a shit about your tools stolen out of a car? It's like if we can't take care of each other, and in a sense, this is a small way for builders to help each other take care of each other. We have bigger fish to fry
for sure
as a society. And I think even law enforcement, they don't have the time to deal with this, because if they're going from one mass murder to the next, if they're going from one rape to the next, from one B&E, from one domestic abuse case, these are called nonviolent crimes, nonviolent offenders. So they take a lower priority over.
And the thieves know that.
And they do know that. And they know that builders don't have the resources to do much about it. And they know law enforcement is overwhelmed and can't do much either. So the whole goal is to create a resource that benefits everybody, saves them time, and can give effective communication so that it doesn't require law enforcement as much time.
For sure.
And I mean, yeah, we have a problem in our society. We definitely have problems. I don't have the answers. I wish I did.
For sure.
But I believe we have a solution that can help make our society a little bit better and can combat so much of the pain and theft that happens. Because, when you look at retailers' inventory shrinkage, between that and contractors alone, and this just as a whole, in the construction industry and retailer shrinkage, that's over $50 billion. That's not taking into consideration how many bikes are stolen a year. So many other applications that this could be used for. At the end of the day, it's about saving your money, protecting your investment, being wise with your purchases, and actually working as a society, because even retailers have this information, and it's them saying, you're my customer and you matter to me, so I'm going to give you the records to help protect you, and that you can do more with, and that everybody can do more with, because I can.
For sure.
And that's really where we are as a crux right now, and we're close. So we're going to keep pounding away until we get there.
Yeah.
And we've got some things in the works. Hopefully I can come back and tell you, hey, guess what? We're a go, and this is what we're doing, and this is how it's going. But every day we get closer.
Yeah. And, you could check out the website right now too, right? Powertoolsafe.com.
Yeah, so, and it's live. Powertool Safe is live. It's for
you can set up an account right now, right?
And it's free for anybody. You can register up to $10,000 in equipment, bikes, skis, computers, anything of value that you want to have records for. so that you can be proactive if anything happens. So go to www.powertoolsafe.com, set up an account, use your phone, create records just by taking photos. At that point, your phone is the best way to create records. Log in because it's a web-based app. You can log in from your phone. You can log in from your computer. If you log in from your phone, create a bookmark, put it on your homepage, and it works just like an app. So information's at your fingertips, and you've got everything you need. And the people that have used it that we talk to, we send out stickers for their trailers, that say, warning, contents registered with Powertool Safe. And I ask them, like, when you see that sticker, what does that mean? And they say, it's like seeing an ADT sign in a yard. When I see it, it just makes me think that somebody's paying attention, and it makes me feel good. And it's that level of preparation that just takes a minute that says, okay.
And it'll make you feel good too.
It's amazing. And they say, I feel good. I'm ready. I'm prepared. And that's a sense of confidence and a level of peace that's like, okay, bring it. Bring it. I dare you.
Yeah.
And so that's the validation that keeps driving us.
Yeah. I got to talk to my brother. He needs to get on Powertool Safe.
Yeah.
He recently started his, I think he's really trying to find his niche, but
Okay.
I noticed this. I talk to a lot of businesses and I study businesses. It's one of my main things. And I noticed with a lot of construction companies, when they're starting out, they're wanting to do it all. They're wanting to do the gutters. They're wanting to do the side. They're wanting to do this. And that's kind of, I think, where he is at right now. But he has the main thing where he mainly does gutter installation. I guess they call it sewage drainage. I don't know what they call it, but I forget.
Stormwater?
Stormwater, yeah. And, but I mean, I call them gutters. I think most people call them gutters, so it works. But yeah, so he mainly does that. And his business is actually taking off. Like he's getting a lot of good business, and I was actually scared for him.
What's his company?
CH Commercial.
Nice, nice.
CH Commercial and Residential, I think.
And more power to him for wanting to do more, for being ambitious, for going after it, because that's how we grow. It's the same thing. He's not complacent and saying, no, I only do gutters and I only touch gutters.
Yeah.
And if it's any more than that, you got to call somebody else, because that brings a higher level of service that customers want. It's the same thing.
No, for sure.
It's the same thing.
It does, but I do see it as with any kind of business, you can start doing this and that, and it starts taking up your time. It starts spreading your bandwidth, and you don't have enough time for everything.
That almost sounds like you're speaking from experience.
Yes.
But that's a whole nother conversation again, and that's talking about the balance beam of life. It's called balance. You don't always maintain it. Sometimes you're overwhelmed. Sometimes it knocks you off the balance beam, and then you have to kind of recalibrate and get back up.
Yeah, and hopefully you when it knocks you off, you land at a higher spot than you were.
Exactly.
Like you may have fallen a little bit, but hopefully you're still higher than where you started.
Well, and so many people who get into construction, they learn through the trades, and it becomes, believe it or not, but it is an institution that you will learn. If you're open to it, you will learn progressively through your entire career. And every time you get knocked off, boy, there's a lesson there. And as soon as you get back on, that's a vertical learning curve. I mean, essentially, my lack of records knocked me off my balance beam because I had a routine. I knew what worked, and all of a sudden, my tools were gone, and now I had a hard time. I lost time because I didn't have the tools to go to work. I had to take the time to create the records. So that knocked me off my metaphorical balance beam at the time, but that learning curve was huge with me. And it created a lesson that stuck with me. And it created an awareness that I was like, ooh, okay, chalk that one up. School of hard knocks, lesson learned.
No, for sure, yeah.
And I think that's true for so many of us.
Yeah, and it's like there's a lot of good construction companies that I should contact and let them know, because I think they could benefit from it, and not even just construction companies. Like I could benefit from it, So
yeah. Well, and and that's been a wall that's a barrier that's really tough for us too. And we realized, because when people sign up or I call them, and we had an ambassador service where we would come to you remotely and we would create your records and catalog them for you. And that actually was pretty popular. People like that idea because again, they don't feel they have the time.
A lot harder to scale though.
Well, it is, but depending on how you do it,
You can hire a service, yeah.
Yeah, you could hire a service or young builders who want to improve their network. And they want to, essentially it becomes a job interview.
Yeah.
You know, builders would say, hey, catalog my stuff.
Yeah.
And we could have young builders in an area that would go out.
Just scale out the labor. That's all you need to do.
Exactly, yeah. But it's the same thing. So builders are so busy today that they're worried about running their jobs, talking to their subs, talking to their homeowners, keeping them happy, keeping materials ordered, invoicing, accounting. They wear so many hats that revenue generation is their main focus. Tool tracking is loss mitigation.
I would procrastinate on that, like knowing I have like 1,000 tools or a bunch of tools. I would just be like, yeah, I want to do this. I want to get to it. And then the other things would happen. I would put it off. And then next thing I know, it's three months later and I still haven't done it.
And that's exactly, it becomes the lowest priority, because if I've got an hour, I'm going to spend that hour finalizing an invoice so I can get paid.
Yeah. Your tools aren't stolen yet, so why would you?
Yeah, exactly. And so therein lies the perfect solution of partnering with a retailer who stands to gain growth, profitability by offering that service to their users and saving their user that time, but still giving them that valuable information. I mean, customer service is more valuable than just the price.
Yeah, yeah.
And so that's really where we see this going, because then it's mainstream that much faster.
It's almost like accounting for your tools in a way.
That's exactly what it is.
And that's, I think, why people put it off too, because it's easy to put off accounting as well too.
Yeah.
So that makes sense why you would have an ambassador service. Is that something you don't want to do or not going to do?
You know, we tried that for a while and we ran with it, but it was the same thing. It was like one out of so many people would get it and say, oh my gosh, I need to do that now. And usually that would be an employee that would have, 7 work vans or whatever, and say, oh my gosh, I'm so tired of buying tools and having things stolen.
Misplaced.
The thing is, we have automated the process now. The cool thing is, from your phone, you can, whether you have existing tools, you can create records just by, you take 2 photos of each tool that you have. And if you can capture the brand, the model, and the serial number, that's all you need in those 2 photos. And we have a cataloging service that can complete your records for you. The other thing that we've done is, because we've created a database and we're working with manufacturing companies now to use their imagery, if you buy a tool and it's still in the box, let's say you go buy a Milwaukee tool and it's a kit. Let's say it's a drill, an impact, 2 batteries, and a charger. That UPC tells us it's a kit. We know the models that are there. We can use stock images for those models and automatically create those records for you just by you taking a picture of the QR codes on the box and the UPC and the receipt. We can create all the records of everything in that purchase with those 3 photos in seconds.
Yeah.
So we have automated the process, and now we're trying to just promote that and integrate it.
Yeah. Well, sweet, man. Yeah, this has been a great, thorough conversation about the business and then Powertool Safe and the story behind it. And I think it really gives people a good understanding of what it does. I actually can see, me working for you as a content provider, I guess. I could see some good promotional pieces that could be created out of this podcast.
Absolutely. And that's something that's always an evolution. And happy to have you. Happy to have you, and happy to have you continue that collaboration, because that's the whole thing. Is like when you're out of your element, because I can build you a hell of a house, but programming has been a vertical learning curve that it's taken me years to figure out. And now that I've got the team, I'm trusting they have the experience. I know they have the experience because I've learned how to finally hire the people with the right experience and the right temperament and the right guidance to help build that culture and that team. And it becomes the same thing. I can build you a house. I'm not good on marketing. I can build you a house, but I need, so many aspects of this new business that is new to me that again, it's finding the right partners and building that network and building that team and building a team that works together and having good culture with that is really becoming the challenge. And that is almost that is actually the fun part of the job.
I think so too. Yeah. Like I love learning about every aspect about business. I want to be super knowledgeable and efficient and wise about every aspect of business. And I know that that's not everyone's MO, but I actually found out that I love video production and I love creating and I love marketing. But I love business more. I found that out. I've been an entrepreneur more than anything. I've since I was 16, reading Entrepreneur magazine and all this stuff. And we even built like a food truck with my stepdad.
That's cool.
off a trailer. It was not a food truck, but it was a food trailer, I guess you could say.
Sure.
But we were starting to build it. I was funding it myself. Being 17, working at Hardee's.
That's awesome.
Making $50 a day.
Sure.
It's still trying to fund this thing and go to school. And it's like I've always been an entrepreneur, and I love the business side more than anything. So I realized that's really what I really want to just really hone and really focus. And I think if you can master marketing, you can grow any business.
The business model is fundamental. Right?
Yeah, the business model is fundamental, and the systems and
the marketing is fundamental. Is almost secondary to the business model. But you're right. There's so many aspects to every business. It's almost like every business has. We were talking about the ecosystem of tools in the construction industry. There is a business ecosystem with every aspect of it, and they're also interrelated. That the deeper you get into that, in my mind, I can get into the weeds pretty quick and say, "Oh my gosh, I'm overwhelmed." I understand our business model. I can see our financial goals and how we can help everybody and everybody benefits. But then how does that tie into the social media and
client
the marketing
relations
and everything? It's like there's a point where sometimes you do have to step back and say, okay, now I need to clarify all these relationships so that I can, how every aspect is related so that I can dive deeper and build that culture around every aspect and bring it all together in one cohesive messaged product.
Yeah, I would say, systems and processes are first, because if you can nail those down, your business is going to be running really well,
But you don't have any systems and processes until you have a good business model and you have a good product.
Yes, exactly. You have to build all that.
So it's all interrelated. Yeah, it's all completely interrelated. And I think that's the fun part, is that's really where we are. We were talking about it the other day, and the phrase came up, what came first, the chicken or the egg? And you're like, that really kind of makes sense. And if you think about running your business from that same perspective of what's the next most important thing? Well, what's the fundamental thing? Which one comes first? Which one is more important? Is it the concept? Is it the idea? Is it the business model? Is it the solution that it solves? Is it addressing the pain point? How do you know where to begin? Because there's so much there that everything needs a deep dive, and then you got to connect them all together.
Yeah. And I'm going to be a little bit nerdy here, but we can actually determine that the egg came first off of evolution. Because the person or the chicken that produced the first egg that was actually a hen or a chicken, it was different than that, and the mutation happened with that gestation of that egg. So it was the egg that came first.
Interesting.
Yes.
Interesting.
So it was something that was very similar to what the current chicken is, but it was slightly different.
Okay, so I'm going to expect proper documentation on this, because I want to see on the screen a link to that documentation.
Oh yeah, sourcing everything.
I want to see that, because I agree. I will read that and think that's really interesting, because now next time somebody says it, I read it and I saw the report and here's the scientific information. All right, now I know.
Yeah, we are this is a podcast. You can fact check me or not if you want. But obviously, that is theoretical. But it's based off of what logic would, and not everything is logical either, too. So it's like,
but and therein lies the beauty with every business is it's not always logically run. Sometimes there's an emotional connection that prioritizes something, whether again it's the connection to the pain point and the solution, or
bring Steve Jobs up again. When he left Apple, it crashed. He went and started another company, Pixar, and it blew up. He came back to Apple, it started going up again. So it's like, there's the little emotional aspect where there was something he was doing that no one else could do. They were paying billions of dollars to do. They couldn't do.
And how much of that came from his imagination and the way his mind worked. And I'm going to tie that back to like what we were talking about, being kids, building forts, being in the woods and not knowing our limitations and not having limitations placed on us, but just trusting that there's a way and there's a solution. And if I believe it and I have that conviction, why can't I do it?
Yeah.
And Steve Jobs is a perfect example of that.
I think our brains are machines that are designed to do just that. Yeah. We can come up with ideas and then figure out everything we need to do to make that come to reality. Like, that's one of the special things that makes us so great, is our ability to have ideas and pull them out of our head, bring them into reality. Us, as in everyone alive, everyone who's ever been alive, every human, every person, is that amazing feature. It's like just like we were talking about before the podcast started. The Wright brothers, they imagined an airplane, and they were able to. And if
they listened to everybody who said, "Oh, you can't do that. That's stupid."
Yeah, you can't fly.
And I think that's really a testament to greatness. And just when you believe something or you see something, is trusting it and then having that determination to say, no, I know I can do this. I'm going to figure this out. I can do this. I'm not going to quit. And it's that fortitude that drives you. And man, sometimes it gets frustrating and you're like, is this ever going to, are we ever going to get there? Or is this really a good idea? And then you tie back into your customers and the feedback and they're like, man, this is a great idea. Thank you. And you find that reinforcement along the way, but it's just believing in yourself is really what it comes down to, is believing that you have something that people can benefit from. And following that and not giving up.
And not just believing it, but actually having it.
Well,
like if you actually have value that you can bring to someone, then you're going to be able to either make money off of it or help that person, whatever it is,
Well, you know what they say, dare to dream.
Yeah. Who says that?
Yeah. Well, it's a good point.
Just kidding.
Everybody.
Okay, so I do want to start closing this out, but I did have a question kind of that I was thinking of that I would like to just pick your brain on a little bit. One thing I've also noticed with construction, the construction industry, they don't have to rely on marketing as much. I don't think, depending on how big they want to be and how fast they want to grow, but a lot of construction companies can do really well just off of networking and word of mouth, mostly word of mouth.
I think there is truth in that. But that's also a fallacy.
Okay.
So, I mean, that is a dichotomy where a lot of people can do well. And at the same time, a lot of people struggle, Or
maybe they look like they're doing well, but they're probably
or they're trying to, or sometimes it's hard to stay busy. A lot of times it depends on which type of construction they're in. If they're an independent contractor, they don't necessarily have to go out to find homeowners. They can partner with 2 or 3 general contractors who can provide a source of work to them. So if it's an independent contractor who is very professional in what they do and they deliver a good product and they have a good price point, they will be very busy with 2 or 3 contractors. So if they're a general contractor and they're looking to build their brand, build their business, find their clients,
definitely need
work
marketing,
for owners, they're going to need marketing.
So they got to bring those leads for the independent contractors.
Exactly. So and the other thing is, I'm from Montana, and I spent several years building homes in Big Sky, Montana, a ski resort up there. That would be Montana's equivalent to Colorado to Aspen or Vail.
Okay.
Not quite to the level that Aspen and Vail are, but it's getting there. It's definitely getting there. And there's a lot of people up there who have, who want a 3, a 4, a 5, a $15 million house. Well, they're going to be extremely selective on who they pick, and to build that clientele and have the marketing and to have the street credibility to get those jobs does take a lot of marketing, and it takes a lot of experience, and it takes a lot of exposure and a lot of networking. So I don't think it's safe to say that some people can do, or that it's okay to just rely on one type of marketing, whether
me
it's
neither.
networking.
I think anyone can benefit, even if you're doing well, you can benefit off of marketing if you want to grow.
Yeah.
100%. So were you an independent contractor or a general contractor?
I was a general contractor, but I evolved into a general contractor. I started as an employee. I worked as an employee in construction, and then through my experience, and I became an independent contractor, and then I started hiring employees, and we started as a framing contractor, and then I became a general contractor, and we really did everything from the foundation through. We'd pour our own concrete, we would do our own framing, we'd do our own siding, we'd do our own trim work. And then ultimately I got to the point where I just subbed everything out because it had too much work going and I couldn't run the crews.
For sure.
But so I've seen every aspect of the marketing and those relationships, from independents to generals. And a lot of times, working with other general contractors, it's crazy because, sometimes we see each other as competition, but the reality is when we work together, we can't all service everybody's needs.
Exactly.
And certain personalities work better with certain types of builders. And when we work together, we're all stronger.
I believe that, yeah. And that's the abundance mindset, too, of, yes, there's competition out there, and you'd be delusional to act like there isn't. But it is better when we were talking about this on the episode that's previously recorded. It is better when we're working together. It does help out. But also it's like, yes, there's another person over here doing the same thing you're doing for the same type of industry or whatever. But like you said, there's so much work that there's so much like abundance of things that need to be done out there that you couldn't take all of that market share if you wanted to, unless you built a monopoly.
Absolutely. And, for so many of the development companies that are out there now, that's kind of what they've done. They'll come in and say, we're going to develop a 700 house neighborhood, and they'll do everything. They will have independents that come in and work for them. They'll have subcontractors that work for them, but they have all their own crews. And it's not a matter of every builder or every lot can be sold to an individual who then hires their own general contractor. They're like, we'll just do the whole damn thing. Yeah. And that's what you see around Denver.
But they do, you said they do sub out though, right? So they're providing those smaller businesses a consistent workflow too at the same time.
Exactly. And so that smaller business might not ever have to market because they can rely on all the work provided by that one client.
Yeah. They're essentially, that's interesting because they are a business. They could take on other things, but they're so involved with that one contractor. They're essentially part of that. They're part of that business. Their business almost essentially doesn't even, I guess it does exist, but it's more white labeled, I guess you could say. But white labeling happens all the time with products. So, happens all the time with construction too.
Yep, absolutely. And, there is a good feeling when somebody comes to you and is like, hey, can you build us a house? And you say, gosh, I'm overbooked right now. I can't, but I know a builder who's got a house that he's building next door to where you're looking to build. I'd like to connect you to.
Yeah.
And then to be able to help out a friend who's looking for a product and a friend who delivers a product and be like, cool, I could connect you guys. I couldn't help, but that's a win-win. That's a good feeling.
For sure.
That's still a good feeling.
Yeah, and there's and I may be doing that with one thing here soon too. So
yeah,
because there's a thing in Cannon City that I recently got a proposal or sent a proposal for yesterday, and it's like that's an hour drive south. It's like it's funny because they're in Denver, and I guess people in Denver think that Cannon City and Colorado Springs are the same, but they're an hour long. I mean, just as far as Denver is from Colorado Springs.
Yeah, it's down there ways.
Yeah, and about an hour. But I may or may not, find someone else, to take it on. But I mean, I'm available the day they need it. I'll probably still end up doing it because I'm right now in a mode where I'm just taking on whatever I can. Not whatever I can, just as much as I can.
Yeah.
And I'm.
So you still like that chaos?
I do, yes. And I'm also. It's not that I like the chaos. I just remember what it was like when there wasn't any chaos.
Yeah, but I think knowing you the little bit that I do, I think you kind of thrive on chaos.
Oh, I do. I mean, I threw myself into a very chaotic situation when I first moved out here, not knowing anyone and building my business from scratch. That was very chaotic. So I did thrive in chaotic, but I guess what I remember is I remember what it was like when there was no consistent business, and I don't want that to stop.
Yes. Yeah, and that's true, and that's a good perspective to always maintain. And kudos to you, because you came out here on blind faith. Mm-hmm. And you came out here with a vision led by your imagination of what works for you, where your passion is, mm-hmm. and conviction that that's what you wanted to do.
Yeah, I knew I wanted to be in the video production industry. That's kind of what started it. And then
so what I've seen with your videos and the graphics that you do are amazing.
Thank you.
You definitely have a talent there, and I think it's really cool because how many episodes are you up to now on the show?
This is 367, I think. Or no, 167. 167.
So, I mean, just that level of commitment and dedication is the drive, and that's the same thing that I'm talking about. It's like when you have that vision and you believe in it because that's what matters.
Yeah.
My hat's off to you.
Yeah, and like the podcast, I've been doing podcasts for many years. This isn't my first rodeo, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
But doing this podcast, this taught me a lot. It's really my first one where I really, really, really took it serious. And I've had experience, and I've always wanted to even grow like a YouTube personality, grow like a YouTube channel, and this podcast also double acts as doing that for me, checking off that box as well too, as being a business development tool, as being a good point to meet and talk to awesome people and learn about business, and also as something that I think is going to be very beneficial to a lot of people, but also I really believe that we can impact the whole world, globally at least, and maybe Mars too. And
I'm not that ambitious, but go, Andrew.
Yes, and I do feel like we could be a top podcast, a business podcast that really brings the small business reality to anyone who dreams of being a small business owner.
Okay, so help me out because. Back to the point of you driving into your business and how analytical you get about the business side of things and understanding the business. The video that you created about understanding social media was really beneficial to me. And I don't know if that was a link or I can't remember.
It's on YouTube. Yes,
it's on YouTube.
I was going to do
remember the name of that, or
I was going to use it as a private video just for my clients. Okay. But I was like, why don't I just open source this and just be able to send it to my clients whenever they need it, and also anyone who might be able to find it, and also grow my awareness as well too at the same time. So it was just going to be just for my clients, but I wasn't going to hold on to that information just for my clients. I think it could help build stuff and be very informational for anybody. But also, when I wrote it or when I created it, I had specific in mind clients,
Sure. Well, I just, for me, the coolest part is like coming back to this, and it's really an honor to be here and share my story and be able to talk about that with you. But there's a symbiosis here because you have brought information to me that helps me benefit that and has helped me grow my team. Mm-hmm. And I honestly, that's what this is about, is like that information that you are producing helps others too. So you're helping me. And I think if you can share that information with others, man, you've got some good resources that really that people benefit from. And if we can do this in a way that, I don't mean to turn the tables at all, but that's why we're here. Like, how do we benefit everyone, but how do we benefit each other? Because that's when balance is maintained.
Yeah, I was just going to try to find the video real quick. Yeah, it's just the vertical video package distribution strategy. If you search that, you should be able to find it. But yeah, I mean...
And that helped me understand the different types of video posting on social media and how that all integrates, because social media is out of my realm. And you have an aptitude for what you do, and you have a passion for it. And thank you for sharing that, because I get just as much from you as... Well, I still probably get more from you, from your services and your help.
No,
And-
man,
and thank you
it's
for
very
that.
very mutual, and I learn from everybody, and I appreciate you saying that. That really means a lot. And when I make videos like that, it's like that stuff I don't have to do. You know, it's like
Sure.
it's not what you paid for. You know, for the when you paid for vertical videos, it wasn't kind of included.
Sure.
But I wanted to make sure that if you're spending and investing time and money in this, it's going to be used correctly and get to the right spots. And if we're not doing that, then I'm not doing my job. That's what I feel. And I want to help people. And I'm actually going to be creating a lot more videos like that I can send
Cool.
to clients.
Those are helpful. Those
yeah,
are helpful. So
yeah,
thank you for that.
Yeah, and there's a video I do called the Story Brand Video where we really lean into the story and the strategy of that. And I have a whole 4-point strategy system written for that. We kind of did something similar, but we pivoted a little bit, so that's why I didn't send that, because it didn't really apply. But that usually would come with that video, is that 4-point strategy, and I could still send that to you if you'd like. But I'm going to turn that into a video, so you may just want the videos. I don't know. It's you need about 30 minutes to set aside to read this document. It's a big one,
But it's worthwhile if you're trying to dive into how do I do this and pay attention to what it takes to make every aspect work of that business. It's worthwhile.
I think so too, and you know, I'm really excited to produce more videos like that, because I think they're going to be very helpful.
They are helpful.
Because the more value I could, like we were talking about, the more value you can bring, the more money you can make.
No, that's true too. That's true too.
And that's also a driving reason behind it. But you know, the main reason is, like, I want to make sure that it performs the best it possibly can, because it would be a damn shame if it didn't.
Yeah. Well, thank you for bringing that expertise to the podcast and to your clients.
Yes. well, thank you for being a client.
Likewise.
And like I said, I don't take that lightly. I don't know if it's because I'm still 3 years into my business, or if maybe that's just who I am. But if someone is trusting me to produce and paying me, that means the world to me. Like, it's like that. I don't take that lightly. That's just how it is. Yeah.
No, it's true, and it shows.
Mm-hmm. Well, sweet. Yeah, we'll start wrapping this up. This has been a long one. The episode we just released yesterday, with Marcus actually promoting his festival, it was about an hour and a half too. So,
Wow.
So we're just kind of getting longer and longer. I just keep adding more work to me, because the longer the videos are, the more work it is.
That's true.
But it's all good, because I'm like I said, I have really big visions for this podcast. I think it's going to be my biggest business, one of my biggest businesses. It may hit there first, is what I'm getting at. I do want to scale Vmint, and I also have some other ideas with some applications. Actually, I was telling my friend, I believe with the way technology is going, video editing and my services and even movie producing are going to be outsourced to artificial intelligence.
Completely.
And so I believe there's more value I can add on top that builds on top of that. And I want to be able to develop those systems that put those jobs out of service, because it's going to happen. So I might as well get in front of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yep.
And so it's like Vmint Visuals actually is going to be more of a tech company, and it actually technically is, and because I use video cameras, which is technology. Sure. So we're technically already a tech company if you think about it. So it's like I want to lean more into that, and build from that aspect of it. And I'm already kind of building a software that's already starting to automate and edit things itself. So
Awesome.
I'm really excited about that, and where I'm going and scaling the business for that. But yeah, I mean, like I'm saying, I do believe the podcast is a very powerful platform that could be one of my most lucrative businesses. Yeah.
Well, you're doing it from a place of passion, and that's really what matters. And when you do that, then it doesn't feel like work.
Yeah, exactly. It still does, but yes, I feel you.
Yeah.
It's the thing though, is like that I've learned over the past month that I've known about, but I didn't actually learn. You can know about things, but not know them. It's kind of funny.
Yep.
And like I've known it to be true, but I don't feel like I really stepped into the entrepreneurial role until about a month ago. Of like obviously already doing some things, but like I think it's more. knowing what you need to do in your business and knowing what you need to delegate. I think that's what a real entrepreneur does. One that's successful and grows. And you could say Columbus was an entrepreneur, but
Nah, he was an explorer.
yeah,
He got paid to explore. That was the end of it.
Okay, new world, you know.
Right?
But what I'm getting at is there's things in this podcast that I do that I shouldn't be doing, and I should really be only focusing on making sure everything is running perfectly and building the things that do that, but really be focusing on the conversations, really be focusing on the hosting of the podcast. That's, I think, what I need to be doing. Not worried about are you in frame? I'm looking over here every 5 seconds to make sure that's still going. Like I shouldn't have to worry about that. Not worrying about the editing, getting that automated and edit.
Well, that all comes with time.
And it's coming. And it's coming.
Yeah, and you're getting there, and that's part of the journey. Mm-hmm. And there's a point where it's like it's not really a race from A to B. That's all part of the journey. Mm-hmm. So if you're present through that journey and you pay attention to it, you can learn along the way and you can enjoy it. Mm-hmm. We get so busy in life that we think, we just have to get from A to B. No, you'll get from A to B, but you have to do it right. Mm-hmm. And you have to do it with all your heart.
And you have to not beat yourself up.
Yeah, that's true.
I was doing that to myself last night. Like, it's from a habit that I developed, when I was starting my business. I would just start stressing about things, It's like, are things coming? And it's like, things are going well, Andrew. Why the hell are you stressing right now? Yeah. It's like, you can always find something to stress about, though.
It's true. Balance. It all comes back to balance. And you're right. It's so hard to give ourselves a little bit of latitude and be like, if you were watching a friend of yours, if you yourself was a friend, you'd be like, right on, that's cool. But because it's you're like, yeah, but you should have, yeah, you could have. We are always hypercritical of ourselves, and sometimes that can be to our demise. So sometimes you got to just step back and be like, just keep going, take a breath, take some time. Good on you. Oh yeah, good job.
No, for sure.
And it's hard. It is hard, yeah.
And I'm like I said, I'm excited where I'm at in my business. I'm at a very pivotal point. I like a make or break point, but I'm a little bit past that point.
Fantastic.
So I'm really excited and just making sure everything is not going to implode on itself. So
just keep on keeping on then. Right?
I just finished the book, The E-Myth Revisited. I don't know if you've heard of that book. It's been around since the 80s, so I knew there was a chance that you might have heard of it because the longer something
calling me old?
No, I just say the longer something is around, the more chances, opportunities you have had to. You've at least been around since the 80s too, so. But it's been revised and updated, but it's a really good book about, I guess the big takeaway, and I think they may even coin the term, where you probably heard it before. It's like, don't work in your business, work on your business. Which is which gets thrown around in business a lot, especially as you're learning and growing a business. But that's the main concept of the book, is really putting those systems and processes in place. And like, it was perfect alignment with what I was already learning. Like things, it's part of the law of attraction. You attract what you're thinking about. And so I was already thinking and already building those systems. And then I knew about that book already. I seen the title pop up in one of my apps, and I was like, I'm gonna start listening to it. And I didn't realize how accurate it was to exactly what I needed to learn. So
that's awesome.
So yeah,
that's
man.
Awesome.
Yeah, and I keep saying let's wrap this up, and then talking for another 10 minutes, 20 minutes. I don't know how much time you have, if your meter's about to run up or anything, but
I forgot my wallet, so I was like, I think I'll be okay. I've got my phone, I'll be good. And then I pulled it, and I thought, well, I'm gonna take a chance today.
Oh, okay.
So we'll see if I have a ticket when I get
So you didn't have your wallet with you, so you couldn't even pay.
I left the house. I was like, I probably don't need my wallet because I didn't even think about parking.
Yeah.
So we'll figure out when I get out whether or not that was a good idea, or if I should have gone back and got my wallet.
Well, during the weekdays, around this time is when they walk on this street. I know that because I've been here for 3 years, and I was paying attention. I've gotten tickets before.
All right, well, on that note, then, I need to get out of here.
Yes. All right, well, this has been the COS Business Podcast, and we'll see you guys on the next one.